Hello guys, welcome to the channel. It's your boy EO here. So I never thought I would say this, but that dream of eventually moving to Africa, I expected going to Africa, living the life, stress-free, no issues. But then when I found out what was going on behind closed doors, there being corruption, fighting for power, it made me reconsider my move to Africa, and it made me think twice about, is what I'm actually doing, moving to Africa, is it a good choice for me? So around me, my family, they were telling me what was going on in Nigeria, about there being a fight for power between different tribes, the Fulanese and the Yorubas, fighting to see who can outrun each other, so it's basically a fight for who is better, and is a fight for control. In order for this problem to eventually solve itself, is about people coming together. We see that in Kenya, we see that in other southern African countries, in East Africa, we see people coming together, to become one. So in order to find out if Africa was truly for me, I had to dive deeper into the reasons behind the issues that, we're facing today in Africa, which leads me to one word: greed. In some African countries, it's all about what can I take, not what can I give to the people. And that's why I think Africa is where it is today. Especially, I'm saying this based on what my parents have experienced in Nigeria and what I've been hearing. So obviously, not all countries are based on greed. You've got countries that are safe, that are together, and it's not, you've got countries that are bad and you've got countries that are good. So no country is the same, basically. But what you need to know is that the reason why I think personally, I had to reconsider my move to Africa is because, I wasn't really sure that, okay, cool, if I move to Africa, am I going to make a change? Because of what I've been hearing about greed on the continent, about people not working together, Africa would be so ahead of the West. Africa would be laughing at the West and be like, oh, well, we're working together. There's nothing that you guys can do. But now we're seeing some African countries that are basically saying that, okay, cool, yeah, we need the West to survive. So therefore, we're going to let the West take all our resources. We're just going to be left with nothing. That's why I think Africa is not where it should be. It should be way ahead of most of the Western countries. But because of, the mindset that, okay, yeah, the West can take all our resources and we can just sit back and just, take. Another thing that made me consider, is Africa really the place for me, was the level of corruption. And of course, you can argue and say that you've got some African countries that are so bad in corruption, and you've got other African countries that, are still corrupt, but not compared to what you might experience, let's say, if you go to Nigeria or somewhere else. And I feel like this especially happens in the higher places. I'm not going to say what country or who it is. You guys watching this video would of course know what I'm talking about. It's coming up from the hierarchy. They're willing to take the money, but they're not willing to use that money to help build the country. That's why you see so many people that are up there. I'm not going to say who it is, that are driving nice cars, have nice houses. But most of that money, they should have used it to help the people. And that's why Africa is not where it is today. And that was one of the reasons why I was reconsidering my move to Africa, because I was thinking that Okay, cool. Let's say I move to Africa, right? Am I really going to change anything? You know, the only way that change can happen is within the government, you know? And if the government is still not really doing what it should be doing, then, you know, what use do I have? Okay, cool. Let's say that you want to build a tree, right? A tree will not grow if the poison is still in the tree. So no matter what you try to do to that tree, whether you try to put seeds, I don't know, to grow it, water to grow it, it's not going to grow if the poison is still in the tree. And that same concept can be used in some African countries. So what has this taught me? If you're coming from the UK or the US, or even if you're based in Africa, what can this teach you? Okay, cool. Yes, there is corruption in Africa. People are not working together in Africa. Yes, that is currently happening. The whole situation, the whole issues, it all comes down to people's mindset. You know, what are they thinking? You know, if you're thinking about me, of course, someone can easily persuade you to be like, okay, yeah, do this, do that, do this, do that. So now you can easily be persuaded to be doing the wrong things. That's what can happen. So it's all about teaching the new generation, you know, like what Ibra, I know, what's his name? Traore. Traore is doing this in Burkina Faso, you know, trying to build up these young children. You know, the country is going in the right direction, you know, and despite the corruption and everything that's going on, if you're coming from the UK, the US, or even if you're in Africa, you can still change the continent. All it takes is one person to make a difference and everybody will follow. We've seen that with Traore and all the countries that are joining him. You know, all it takes is one person and hopefully the rest will follow. You know, because in my opinion, I feel like Africa is already, you know, no one really expects the come up of Africa. Whereas the West countries like the UK, the US, they are already developed. They are already established countries. So the only way for these countries, the only way for them now is to go downhill. That's why I tell people, you know, if you're from the UK or the US, this is your time now to move to Africa, to move to places like Kenya, whether that's Ghana or wherever in Africa. This is the time to go now. If you like this video, if you want more inspiration, more motivation, by watching me document my journey to eventually move to Africa, move to Kenya, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and also comment down below what you think. Do you think Africa can change? What are your thoughts on the African continent right now? You know, are there any issues that I failed to talk about? Please do let me know down in the comments. And yeah, peace.